Have you ever wondered what single event triggered the First World War? It all began in the summer of 1914 when a young man named Gavrilo Princip assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary. This single shot in Sarajevo sparked a chain reaction that would lead the world into a devastating war. The assassination set off a series of diplomatic maneuvers and ultimatums among the major European powers. Austria-Hungary, with Germany's support, declared war on Serbia, where the assassin was from. This, in turn, triggered a complex web of alliances that had been formed in the preceding years. On one side were the Allies, initially comprised of France, Russia, and the United Kingdom. They were united not so much by shared ideals, but by mutual defense agreements and a common enemy. On the other side were the Central Powers, made up of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. They too were bound together more by strategic necessity than ideological kinship. As these alliances took shape, what could have been a regional conflict rapidly escalated into a global war. Nations were drawn into the fray, one after the other, like dominoes falling in a line. The stage was set for a confrontation that would engulf the world, reaching across continents and oceans. Thus began a war of unprecedented scale and devastation. Imagine a war fought not on open fields but in muddy, treacherous trenches. That was the grim reality of World War I, a conflict that witnessed the birth of trench warfare. The Western Front, stretching from the Belgian coast to the Swiss border, was a complex labyrinth of trenches, dugouts, and barbed wire entanglements. Soldiers on both sides lived and fought in these trenches, enduring unspeakable conditions. They faced the constant threat of enemy fire, the brutal cold, and the omnipresent mud that seemed to swallow everything in its path. The trenches, in essence, became their homes, their battlegrounds, and for many, their graves. But the trenches were just one aspect of this new kind of warfare. As the war progressed, so too did technology. New weapons were introduced that would forever alter the way wars were fought. The machine gun, with its ability to fire hundreds of bullets per minute, turned the tide of many battles. It made charging across no man's land a deadly endeavor, often leading to staggering casualties. Then there was the tank, a formidable new weapon that could cross trenches and barbed wire, providing a much-needed advantage in the stalemate of trench warfare. These lumbering beasts, despite their initial flaws, signaled a shift in military strategy and tactics. And let's not forget the infamous chemical warfare. The use of poison gas, like mustard and chlorine gas, introduced a terrifying and invisible threat to the battlefield. The effects were devastating and horrifying, causing a slow and painful death to those exposed. It was this combination of trenches and technology that characterized World War I. The conflict was a crucible of innovation and adaptation, where old strategies met new technologies with devastating results. Warfare was no longer about gallant cavalry charges or the strength of infantry lines. It was about endurance, survival, and the harsh efficiency of machines. And so, as the dust settled and the echoes of gunfire faded, the world was left with a chilling realization. The face of warfare was forever changed. Beyond the strategies and technologies, there was a staggering human cost. World War I was more than just a conflict of nations. It was a tragedy that robbed millions of their lives. Soldiers, young and old, from all walks of life, were thrust into the chaos of warfare, many never to return. The battlefields were a testament to human bravery, but also to our capacity for destruction. But the war's impact extended far beyond the trenches. Civilian populations were not spared from the horrors, as Europe became a landscape of desolation and despair. Famine gripped nations as agriculture faltered. Disease spread unchecked among weakened populations, and countless individuals were displaced, their homes razed by the relentless march of war. The echoes of their suffering still reverberate through history. The scars of war ran deep and wide, leaving a legacy of pain and loss that would shape the course of the 20th century. The end of the war brought no immediate relief. As the guns fell silent, the Armistice of Compiègne was signed on the 11th day of the 11th month in the year of 1918, marking the cessation of hostilities on the Western Front. This was the first step towards the end of World War I, a war that had ravaged the world for over 4 long years. Yet, the peace that followed was not as harmonious as many had hoped. In the wake of the armistice, the Treaty of Versailles was drafted. This treaty, signed in the Grand Hall of Mirrors in Versailles, France, in June of 1919, was intended to formalize the end of the war. However, it imposed severe punitive measures on Germany, the perceived instigator of the conflict. Germany was burdened with the blame for the war and was required to make substantial reparations, crippling its economy. The treaty also stripped Germany of its colonies and considerable portions of its territory. This punitive peace stirred a profound sense of humiliation and resentment within Germany. The Treaty of Versailles, while ending one war, planted the seeds of discontent that would eventually grow into another global conflict, World War II. The peace that had been achieved was fragile and fraught with tension. The stage was set for a century of conflict. The echoes of World War I can still be felt today. Its reverberations have shaped the course of history, leaving a lasting imprint on politics, society, and culture. The war marked the end of empires, the birth of nations, and sparked radical changes in the global political landscape. It revolutionized warfare, with technological advancements setting a precedent for conflicts to come. Society was transformed as women took on roles previously held by men, leading to shifts in gender dynamics. The war also influenced a cultural shift, with literature, art, and music reflecting the disillusionment and loss experienced by a generation. Yet, perhaps the most poignant legacy of World War I is the lesson it offers. It stands as a stark reminder of the devastation of war and the human cost of conflict. As we remember the past, we strive to learn for the future.